everybody, this is Scott Waters and welcome to No Life Till Metal, and with me I have
Trog from Stone Groove Records and Stone Grooves and Deep Cuts.
And together we are going to do a top 10 of 1982. However, it's going to be the non-hard and heavy. This is going to be your classic rock.
Yeah. I mean, some of it's still hard and heavy somewhat, but
It's
as we get further into the 80s, it starts to become a little easier to separate the rock from the metal, as so many of you are so vocal about sometimes.
Right. So we picked out 10 classic rock records that we like that aren't metal.
Yeah.
None of these can be described as metal.
Not
and
really.
we've got 10, but we thought very quickly we'd show a few honorable mentions that we wanted to include but ended up not making the list. One of my picks, Van Halen, Diver Down.
Yep.
One of the great rock and roll swindles of the 1980s.
Kind of. It's an EP.
It's like, an EP basically, was sold as a full-length album. Barely like a minute or two.
Well, they filled it out with cover songs. There's freaking like 3 or 4 cover songs.
It's 1/3 cover songs, 1/3 instrumental fluff.
Yeah,
and then 1/3 real songs.
Where Have All the Good Times Gone is a Kinks song.
Yep.
Pretty Woman is the Roy Orbison song. Big Bad Will is Sweet William Now. I don't know. That doesn't sound like something they wrote, but who knows? Dance in the Street, Martha and the Vandellas.
Then you got
Happy Trails,
which is, like I said,
Roy Rogers and Gil Evans.
Yeah.
But the album is pretty cool. Otherwise, I mean, I remember really digging it when it came out. But you've got they're definitely treading in more commercial material.
Yep. And this to me was the last
territory.
It was the beginning of the end for Van Halen. But
my favorite cut on there, probably Little Guitars.
I digress because that's not even in our list.
Not really.
Another one that's not in our list.
All right.
Honorable mention.
There's so much I can say about this album. Mainly what a disappointment it was, but it's Queen. So I can't really shit on it too much because it's Queen.
And it has some redeeming...
A couple redeeming qualities. This is the album that gave us Under Pressure.
I love the song with David Bowie.
You can't go... That's like iconic.
It's definitely a pop song.
It is, but
it's a good
there's a lot of passion to it. It's not fluffy.
But then you got songs like Body Language.
Back Chat.
They gotta say, the song is really catchy.
Staying Power Dancer.
You can't even say Body Language without thinking that, you know.
It's bad.
Yep.
It's like artists, I said this before, artists, you know, they might complain that I'm not given enough creative freedom in my band and blah blah blah. Well, Freddie was given a lot of the reins in this one, and it's like, come on, man. I hope you loved it, man, and bless you where you are. But for me, it was a total disappointment, especially coming on the heels of something that was so really awesome and totally different from their style anyway, as The Game.
Right.
We weren't ready for you to radically change styles that much again. Put Out the Fire is probably the other song on here that I think it makes it not a total wash, and that's a Brian May track, and it's pretty cool. But Hot Space, honorable mention.
Honorable mention, Fort Knox. Could have made a hard and heavy list. Just some people would call this heavy metal. I wouldn't. I'd say it's just a solid AOR hard rock album, produced by Chris. I never can say this guy's name.
Sangreets.
Chris Sangreets, who of course
worked
with Anvil and Thin Lizzy and a lot of other guys. So he kind of gave this album an edge. It's actually a very good album, but didn't make my top 10 list.
What's AOR? Is it album-oriented rock or adult-oriented?
I've heard both, so I don't know.
Okay. Album-oriented makes more sense to me. Adult-oriented rock makes me think of like Christopher Cross.
Yeah.
Guys that thinks of Jimmy Buffett, stuff we listen to on yachts and have margaritas and.
Alright, last honorable mention. Could have made the list, didn't.
Rush. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Signals. I think it's a great album, but that's with like 30 years in retrospect. When it came out, I wasn't really impressed.
I was disappointed when it came out too. It was on the heels of
Moving Pictures,
which was a great record. Heavy riffs.
Yeah.
The keyboards were there on that album, but it was
not
different.
As prominent.
On here it became...
They're more prominent on this one, more centered around them. I mean, don't get me wrong, Rush has never put out a bad album. Everything they do is the top of their craft, and it's usually the top of technology as it stands. I mean, they're one of those bands that just have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in not just the music world, but in many worlds. So it's thinking man's band, always has been, always will be. But this one, honorable mention for this group.
And here is our top 10. In no particular order. There is we decided not to pick a number one.
Scott's gonna do 5. I'll do 5.
All these are just records that we picked out. So my first one, Resurrection Band, Res Band. This would
DMZ.
This would be their third record, I believe. DMZ.
Was that number 3? I didn't realize that.
Or is it Colors? I don't know. Regardless, it's one of their earlier records.
DMZ is Demilitarization Zone, I believe.
Something like that, yep. Horrible record cover. I never liked the record cover. I still don't like it. It's just, I like the back cover.
It's definitely it's consistent with 80s in the way that album covers were going, the kind of garish colors and the real simplified shapes and that kind of crap.
But musically, this album's still in this could have actually made a hard and heavy list because it had 2 signature songs on here. 2 signature songs on here in Military Man. Great song. I'm sure you've heard that one, right?
Yep.
And then White Noise. Heavy. It starts off with all this just guitar wankery, wrenching, just great stuff. And then it goes into the song. The only song on here, they started getting a little new wavy in the 80s. And the only song I really describe that as on here is a Wendy song called Reluctant. But otherwise, Babylon, great song. But my favorite 2 songs, Military Man and White Noise. I mean, those 2 songs alone make this album the reason I would put it into the top 10.
And that's a Resurrection Band release?
Resurrection Band. It was before they shortened it to Res.
Which was another symptom of the 80s, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But then they went back.
And this is a Christian band, and the only Christian band in our list.
One of the more interesting and edgy classic rock style Christian bands. I mean, Glenn Kaiser definitely had some edge to him.
I actually have a story about this one. When I was this old, in 82, however old I was middle school, I think. I was going to a youth group at a little Baptist church, Bible Baptist church it was called. And I'd go to church wearing my Who and Zeppelin and Aerosmith and Jack Daniels and shirts. And I went to youth group like that. And I was heavily involved in youth group. I went constantly. I was very involved in it and I liked it. Most of the other kids that I went there did not. They were always trying to get me to stop listening to that evil music. And they were trying to push on me stuff like Sandy Patty and Keith Green, which I did eventually.
Patty, I mean, really?
Well, yeah.
There's no connection there, man.
And who's the guy who did Rainbows Keep Falling on My Head?
B.J. Thomas.
The kids in my youth group were into B.J. Thomas because after that Raindrops, he went in the direction of Christian, and they were trying to push that kind of stuff. And I do like Keith Green now, but I was like, oh, you're talking. I mean, Zeppelin.
This ain't gonna happen.
B.J. Thomas. So
hey, great song, Raindrops Come Fall on My Head,
but my youth pastor turned me on to 2 bands that really were good. One was I almost said Keith Green, but not Keith Green. No, it wasn't Petra, because Petra was another one they were into, and I was like, even then they were that great. But Phil Keaggy was one of those turned me on to.
Keaggy was always quality.
And Resurrection Band, and the song I heard was Military Man. I'm like, there you go.
Now they got it.
That's what I'm looking for. A heavy song, great song. And you know, the funny thing was that youth group, and this had nothing to do with the record. I found that years later, after I'd graduated through college, I went through Bible college. I was working for a Christian t-shirt company at the time, and I was making these shirts, and I was sending them back to my youth pastor because he's a friend of mine. Well, he ended up moving and becoming one of the Philadelphia Bible College. He ended up becoming some dean or something like that over there. He told me that while I was in the church, a lot of the parents of the other youth wanted me out and were trying to convince him to kick me out because of the shirts and because of the music I listened to. And then when I went to college, they would send care packages every once in a while, just candy and stuff. They didn't want to send it to me. The other parents did, and he made them do it. Which I think is hilarious.
Amazing.
You know, and the funny thing is,
such a fine line.
And some of those kids in that youth group ended up, pregnant before they were married and other crazy stuff. And here I was graduating from Bible college and sending him these T-shirts. Well, the reason he left the church was because they were looking for a head pastor, and he was too young in his 30s. Too young in his 30s. And the guy had been doing the interim pastoring the whole time. So he was really disappointed that he didn't get to be the pastor. So in his last service, he wore his typical suit that you do to a Baptist church, but underneath of it, he wore one of my T-shirts.
Oh, awesome.
And during his sermon, apparently he took off his thing and he showed him, and he said, "You remember that kid you want to kick out of the youth group back in the day? He just graduated Bible college, and this is a T-shirt he did." And I just thought that was awesome. And I love
that. Is cool. That's
Kevin. His name was Kevin Osnick, and I love him to this day. And I don't ever see him or talk to him except on Facebook occasionally, but huge influence on my life. So
every once in a while, somebody does it right.
Yep.
They focus on the love.
They focus
instead of on the rules and on the judgment.
Exactly.
And stuff that's easy. Stuff with stuff that somebody doesn't have an inch of depth.
Faith, Hope,
It's
and
easy
Love.
to
And the
get.
greatest of these is?
Love.
Right. So anyhow, totally off the subject.
And the most expensive?
Yeah, love. So there you go.
Anyway. Yeah, that was a total rabbit trail, man.
Yeah.
Big time.
All right, so that was
That's the worst one we've ever had.
Number 10. Number 10. Number 9.
It's the next
Number 9 in our list. And again, this is not in any particular order,
Yeah.
but we do have 10, so I'm just counting backwards.
Just
So number
overrun.
9.
We got another kind of supergroup, really. Several of these throughout the years, and this was just really no exception, and it was really one that worked. It was Asia. We had Steve Howe from Yes, Jeff Downes from the Buggles and Yes for a period.
John Wetton
from King Crimson. Also Uriah Heep.
Yep.
And Cole Palmer from
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
Yep.
and Crazy World of Arthur Brown.
Yep, that's right.
So this was very radio friendly.
Super radio friendly.
Yeah, and very well done. From the amazing cover art by Roger Dean, and to the, we had Heat of the Moment, was a huge hit. Only Time Will Tell, huge hit. Soul Survivor was another great track. Wildest Dreams, Cutting It Fine, great album, real solid.
And I remember when this came out, the record industry, they said it was in a slump at the time.
Mhm.
But this album was massive and sold.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it was multi-platinum, if not platinum.
Yeah,
and I just remember it was one of the biggest selling records of the time.
And lots of airplay on MTV as well, which helped a lot, obviously, back when MTV really...
And I gotta say, I'm not sure I liked the album as much. I loved it album when it came out. But I'm not sure, I don't listen to it as much because I think it's one of those overplayed records,
Yeah, it is. It's an enjoyable listen.
But once in a while, I like it. So.
It's an album that kind of goes along with it a little bit was the Aldo Nova album that came out just the year before. I always kind of associate those two records, probably because my buddy Mike Cameron was a freak about both of them.
All right, number 8, my pick, Magnum, Chasing the Dragon. When I asked people on my Facebook page what albums do you think should be in my 1982 list, this was one that came up several times. I really didn't think it belonged in a hard and heavy list because it's not hard and heavy. I actually made a note to myself because I listened to this album before I left. I hadn't heard it in a little while, so I gave myself a fresh spin, a fresh listen. And I wrote Magnum, melodic 80s prog, similar to Saga or
Wow.
or late 80s Genesis. So yeah, it's not your it's not heavy metal by any stretch. I'd barely call it hard rock, but it's very good. Almost like Asia. It has more of a commercial edge to it, but it's still progressive. It's more progressive than the Asia was.
Great Rodney Matthews cover art.
Rodney Matthews cover art, and I love Rodney Matthews cover art. He's one of my favorite artists. Favorite cover artist.
What year did Worlds Apart by Saga come out? Was that 82 or 81?
I think it was 81.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 81.
Similar.
So, but yeah, solid album. Fans of 80s Genesis, not pop 80s Genesis, that like kind of the Duke Abacab era, or more progressive Saga would probably dig this as well. And I believe this is their UK band, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure they're UK band. So. And he also did the text and the logo for them.
He did.
So anyhow,
Awesome.
Magnum, Chase the Dragon.
Next. Album number 2 in a pair of albums that I really dig by this artist. He had a third project he was involved with also during this period that I like. But for the most part, his other stuff I don't care for as much. But he really had it during this period of time. Sammy Hagar, 3 Lock Box. This was a really highly anticipated album because Standing Hampton had done really well. He appeared on the heavy metal soundtrack the year before. That kind of bolstered his career. I don't think he ever had much better success with his solo career than he did for these couple albums right here. And then of course he went on to join Van Halen, and that's a different world.
Whole story. Yep.
Yeah. He had several solo albums up to this point, but these two really seemed to... They were kick-ass. There's good stuff on here, man. 3 Lock Box, the title track was great. Remember the Heroes is awesome. Gets a lot of airplay around...
Back cover's cool.
Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Oh, so
back cover's cool.
Yeah, I thought the back cover,
They're kind of similar.
Similar, but the back cover's better.
Sammy's in her mouth, and in the back it's her tongue, but it looks like a pick.
It's a guitar pick, isn't it? Yeah.
Is that what it is? Because it always looked weird to me.
There's her tongue there, and this is a guitar pick, yep.
Oh, it's very, very, very deep.
Deep.
And I've heard things about what a 3 Lock Box is, and I don't really want to get into it.
I don't know. Yeah. For me, best Sammy Hagar, Montrose.
Oh hell yeah, that's and that to me that's a different world too. It's almost like I forget he was in that band.
Because it was, it's just there's no touching it.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite. And the other thing I really dig that he did was the HSAS, Hagar, Schoen, Aronson, and Shreve, which great album. That was kind of super group too. He had drummer from Santana, bass player from, he's played with everybody, but he was in a band called Dust. And then we had Neil Schoen from Journey and Sammy and Montrose. So anyway, Rabbit Trail. My favorite cuts on here, I Don't Need Love. Remember the Heroes, Your Love's Driving Me Crazy, and the title track, probably. Good album. Really good. Strong.
Yeah. My next pick, so I think we're number 6, if I'm not mistaken. This is... Okay!
That was interesting.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay.
Little snafu going on right there. We had to restart the camera, so cutting in here. We've got number... whatever.
Yeah.
Gary Numan. Iconic album, iconic artist. I'd call this more new wave than classic rock. But this album, Assassin, was actually very similar to Telecon and Pleasure Principle, sound-wise, a little more funk. The first album was, the first song in here, White Boys and Heroes, definitely funk. And then a little darker than those albums too.
Interesting artist. I mean, to me, he's comfortable in places with like Kraftwerk. And,
sure.
Just that more electronic edge to it that classified the new wave movement.
And
he also, this wasn't his first rodeo either. I mean, he had the Tubway Army that had several releases prior to his solo career too.
Correct.
So.
Yep. Anyhow, great album by him. And little tidbit information on this one. Drummer on this album, Chris Slade.
No way. Who went on to play with AC/DC.
Yep. So.
But he played with someone else too in England. I can't remember who.
So,
maybe it's his name, Chris Slade. I think he played with Slade.
Yeah. No.
But he did.
Yep. So anyhow, Gary Numan. That's my pick.
Awesome. My next one. This is a great album. It's playing in the background, if you can hear it. Jethro Tull, Broadsword and the Beast. See, look, all those runes I was talking about?
Yeah, there they are.
They're all there.
And I love the cover. It's one of my favorite album covers of all time.
Once again, it's Ian Anderson's likeness, and it's this kind of little demented fairy creature. I don't really know what it is. He's got butterfly wings, but he's got a dark countenance, and he's got a hood and a big broadsword. But great album. As far it's pretty solid all the way through. This would have been one of my first concerts, but it didn't pan out, unfortunately. Great tracks on here. My favorites: the title track, Broadsword, Pussy Willow, Watching Me, Watching You. It's a cool album. It's got a little bit more keyboards prominent, which a lot of bands, from the '70s were doing. Rush did it. It was in the air. It wasn't just something that a few bands were doing. It just was a kind of a movement almost, and just artists responding to it. Really.
You know how you know you grew up with records is, like, I have this on CD, and when I listen to the CD, the first side is the album is it's not to say unfamiliar, but as soon as it hits where side 2 was, it's like,
oh
yeah.
Oh, okay. Because there's so many albums that I started, like Love Gun even. Love Gun, I always mixed it up. I started with side 2 because Love Gun was the first song.
I did the same thing with Weekend Warriors, Ted Nugent.
The first album was the first song was I Stole Your Love. It wasn't Love Gun. And years later when CDs came out, I'm like, oh, duh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just you can tell your album because you used to play one whole side and it was you just got.
You get used to it.
And that on this record, it was side 2 for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, and I kind of miss that. That's why I love still being into vinyl, because there's so many things that you grew up with and took for granted that you lost when CDs came out.
And even more that the current generation loses with
with digital, yeah, because it even gets more fractured. But
yep.
Yeah, so it's cool to have these around, and definitely one of the best releases from the classic rock camp in '82 for me.
All right, this next one kind of goes along with the Gary Numan that I just showed, because this artist was, I consider, a hard rock metal artist in the '70s. Definitely a proto metal, if not heavy metal himself. But Alice Cooper, Just for Catch His Skin. First of all, we always loved this album cover.
Yeah.
It kind of.
Is it the song lyrics, or what is this text from?
I don't even remember now.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't know if it's the song lyrics or if it's text from a book, but You can see the zipper catches skin. It's under this little blood kind of smear.
Which is nasty.
And these are hard to find in good shape too.
Yeah, they're always
usually find crappy
tore
ones.
up. So.
White album covers don't
But
age
this
well.
was definitely a different style for him. I mean, look at his look here. He's going. I mean, he almost looks like Gary Numan going on here.
And this is part 3 of a trilogy. Flush of Fashion, Special Forces, and this one. That one were fueled by I found out recently a cocaine addiction.
Right.
He had cleaned up from alcohol, but got introduced to coke by Bernie Taupin and others. And that's a recent revelation that he made on this Super Duper Alice Cooper documentary that just recently.
I'm trying to remember. There was one song in here that actually had that heavy riffs, and I just can't remember which one it is top of my head. But gosh, it's just escaping me. It doesn't matter.
Make That Money, Scrooge's song, pretty cool one. I Better Be Good was a good. It's all more of Alice's sense of humor is coming out on this.
Oh yeah.
Stuff. It's fun to listen to, but there's a dark thread running through
It's a
this.
different kind of dark than those early albums where he was trying to be, Mr. Scary,
This one's almost like, I'm really trying to keep Mr. Hyde at bay here, but he keeps kind of showing up.
Yeah.
And this Alice was kind of a really mean character too. It was different from the one in the 70s.
Yep, very different.
Just very different. And I think, he was coming off a severe alcohol addiction and really messed his life up pretty bad.
But it's definitely worth checking out. I was recently talking to a friend who said he kind of lost track of Alice Cooper, through the 80s. I'm like, you need to check them out. They're worth hearing. They're very good.
For sure. Everything Alice Cooper does, it's well done.
Yep. So
Very well done. All right, here
Next
we've
up.
got
a twofer.
A twofer. Zeppelin had broken up in 1980 after the death of
John
Bonham. The first noise from the camp came in 1982. And it came in 3 forms, 2 of which I'll share because I believe these came first. Jimmy Page's soundtrack to the Death Wish 2, the sequel to the Death Wish movie, I think was the first thing we heard from the Zeppelin Camp musically.
And very different.
Oh, extremely different. I was very psyched to hear it, but I was looking for those riffs and I was looking for the Zeppelin sound. It's there very briefly in some places, but not mostly. It's a soundtrack. It's not,
it is. It's
and
not
not a
meant to be.
soundtrack like today.
Right.
Like a bunch of artists throw a song on there, the hit song to make.
It's almost like you almost could describe it as a score.
Right. Yeah.
But-
Yeah. This is much more of a score and some songs written for and from the movie. We got "Who's to Blame" as the opening cut, and it's got Chris Farlow on vocals, who's just a powerhouse singer. Used to sing with Atomic Rooster. That's probably the most well-known stuff he did. But we've got a bunch of instrumentals on here too, which are cool.
Right.
Jam Sandwich has got a bit of that Zeppelin thing going on. It's a weird record for a Zeppelin fan who was just heartbroken and just wanted more. It filled somewhat of a void, but not enough, and it was only one part of the Zeppelin equation.
But it wasn't meant to be a Zeppelin album. And
Right.
It's still good. It's just good.
And on Swan
You
Song.
just have to separate it from the band, and that's what's hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think John Bonham's death was one of the earliest ones that,
affected
young
you.
music fans that really hit. I'd only just recently got into Zeppelin, but it's just like it was so catastrophic that it broke up the band.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
And going along with this one?
next one was Robert Plant's first solo album, Pictures 11, which I was much more into. I dug this, I respected it. This one really got under my skin a lot more. The hit song on it, Burning Down One Side, track 1, side 1, I used to play that thing over and over because, okay, now I'm hearing some Zeppelin. Because it's the voice of Led Zeppelin, and as much as he was trying to change styles a bit and change styles radically with every release,
Yes.
it was still Robert Plant, and the tone of his voice and his melodic phrasings and all that, it was there. Good stuff on here.
I always thought that if Zeppelin had stayed together, they could have actually gone into that direction. They might have.
Absolutely. I think you can hear stuff on In Through the
Into the
Outdoor
outdoor, exactly.
that fits with this stuff for sure. And Robert was definitely trying to revamp his image. I mean, he's got the beginnings of what was becoming the cheesy 80s look, the way that musicians and artists dressed. It's that Chess King look that Michael Jackson made famous. It was the 80s. He didn't have the long locks anymore. He had like a permed up, shorter hairstyle.
Even Kiss did that early in them. Yep.
It's true. It was just the
Actually,
spirit of the time.
Gene Simmons had the exact same hairstyle, or Paul Stanley, or both of them.
It doesn't look like Paul's, you're right. But sound-wise, and Robbie Blunt was the guitar player on this, and he was a fantastic guitar player. Very, very underrated. Just some great musical passages on this that complemented Robert's voice incredibly. And I want to say Cozy Powell played on this too. I can't remember for sure.
So anyhow,
So first rumblings from the Zeppelin Camp after John Bonham's death were in '82. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant.
so my next pick, I'm going to give you a twofer as well, but my twofer is actually the same band. 1982, Genesis. This is the 3x3 single, which I believe came in a 7-inch and 12-inch format.
And it's 3 songs by 3 people.
Yes, exactly.
I get it.
3 songs by 3 people. And it contained a huge hit, Paper Lane.
Paper Lane is a great song.
You might recall, and Me and Virgil, all good songs. A solid album from them. Not quite the cheese pop they were moving towards.
Sure. It was right before the great. Well, I mean, the self-titled Genesis album that came after this was pretty good too.
Dagler.
Then the cheese wave came.
Yeah, but along with that, fantastic live album. Three Sides Live. Obviously named 3 Sides Live because it's a record, and 3 of the sides were live, and the 4th side had studio tracks, including the 3 songs that were on this.
Wasn't it just those 3 songs?
No, because it also had Evidence of Autumn and Open Door.
Oh, I didn't realize
which
that.
I can't remember the story behind those 2 songs, but they're different recordings from the other 3, which were released. This single was not released in America. This single was released in Europe. And then in the U.S., this was released with those songs on the B-side, and that's how it became a single and popular here. I could be wrong. I do have the UK pressing on CD of this, and the CD pressing has 4 sides live. It's all live. There's no
but is it
studio
still called
cuts.
3 Sides Live?
It's still called 3 Sides Live. Still has the same cover art, but it's all live, and it includes some of the old Peter Gabriel stuff with Phil Collins singing on it as
that's cool.
On the 4th side, it's the CD. So it's awesome.
That just don't make no sense.
Now I'm curious. I don't have the European version of the vinyl. If somebody does, I'm kind of curious. Does the UK version of the vinyl have 3 sides live and 1 side of studio?
This is the first I'm hearing any of this.
So I'm curious, because like I said, I have the CD pressing, and I never bothered to look. And we started talking about it before the video, and that's when I don't know.
It's a mystery.
But gatefold cover, classic live shot.
Awesome.
Brilliant live record. Features mostly material from Duke, Abacab, and then there were 3. Mostly that's the 3 albums, but it also has a medley of Cinema Show within the Cage. I don't know. It's just a great record. There's nothing, and that's cheesy. Everybody says that it's a great record, but it is.
Well, I mean, it is. It is what it is.
So anyhow, my pick, Genesis, still progressive, very popular, but good stuff.
Is that the only one left?
Yes.
Why don't you go first with that one?
Okay.
This is kind of.
And then, okay, my next up.
We're gonna switch it.
My next up. This is Canadian, I'd call them hard rock band.
AOR.
Sure. Melodic rock, hard rock, rock and roll, whatever you want to call it. April Wine Power Play, and it was a follow-up to hugely popular Nature of the Beast.
Great cover.
For whatever reason, this album had an edge to it.
Yep.
Hard rocking, even the cover art is it's got that edge to it.
It's something you'd see on a Ted Nugent album.
Yeah. And then this one came out, lost the edge slightly. A little more commercial, mostly in the production. Why they didn't continue down that lane, I don't know, because that was such a hugely popular album. Then they put this out. I guess they were thinking,
I have an idea why.
More commercial, more money. Who knows?
Record label maybe had some input.
Sure. Who knows what it is? But it did have a hit. Enough is Enough was the hit on this record. You'd know it if you heard it. If you're not,
probably would.
Yeah.
I'm not
and then the other single on this record was "Tell Me Why," which is a Beatles song. Yep. Anyhow.
Don't forget If You See K.
Yeah. If you see K, yeah.
If you see K, tell her I love her.
Yes, if you see her. If you see K. Now, what is it? What is the Van Halen one?
For unlawful carnal
knowledge. Yeah. Anyhow, April Wine, Canadian hard rock. Didn't quite make it into my '82 hard and heavy video because it's not quite.
Yeah, not to mention 3 hours long. It was about. We're pushing it as it was.
So that's my choice. And then the last one for today.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not
really,
calling it number one. We're just, but it is the last one.
It's kind of a big deal issue for that year, and this was the third sounds from the Zeppelin Camp. Now, what we have here is not a newly recorded album. It's older songs from the vault that had not previously been officially released. Before this came out, I was really convinced that Hey What Can I Do was going to be on here, which was the B-side to Immigrant Song when Led Zeppelin 3 came out. It's like, that just makes sense. And when I got it, nope, it's not on there. All this stuff is not on here, and I've never heard any of these songs. Great tracks called from different periods. We're Gonna Groove, Poor Tom, Can't Quit You Baby, which is a live recording, just a very good live recording, like a sound check recording. Walter's Walk, Ozone Baby got a lot of airplay.
Yeah.
Darlene, Bonzo's Mantra, which was a direct tribute to John. It's a drum song. It's like Moby Dick Part 2, but on steroids.
I can't remember when that album came out. That song, which one did you say it was? Ozone? Yeah,
Ozone Baby.
I can remember them playing it over and over again on classic rock stations. Yeah.
And it's a companion song to Robert's Burning Down One Side. It has a similar hook in it. And then Wearing and Tearing. And Bonzo's Mantra, though, great drum track, and Jimmy Page just embellished it with a lot of electronic effects. That really makes it an interesting song to listen to.
Was that a gatefold?
Yeah, it was. I think it's just a bunch of shots of the band that came in. And obviously Coda is the ending of a musical passage, Jimmy Page making a statement there, which for all intents and purposes, that's what it was. It was the end of the Zeppelin as we knew it. The last one that was really going to be newer material. It's on Swan Song. It's got just a very thick inner sleeve, which just shows the track listing, and then just collage of Zeppelin shots over the years. Mostly later stuff, I think, because they look a little bit older than they do. But just like a family portrait or a family photo album kind of a thing.
Yep. So there you go.
Yep.
That was the last one, the number one of the so many we did. We said 10, but we ended up doing like, what, 15? I think there's actually 15 in that list, but it doesn't matter. Just
a companion to the Hard and Heavy, because there was some stuff in there that almost made it to the other list, but when it came down to it, the other list was so damn long.
Yep.
Scott just said, hey, let's do a classic rock one.
So there you go. Our top 10 1982 classic rock albums.
Yeah.
Classic rock, new wave, whatever. Stuff we liked.
From here on.
Stuff we liked from that year.
Yeah, the rift is going to start getting more obvious from here on, because the classic rock camp and the metal camp, they really were splitting at that point.
Yeah, so next video, we'll try and get the 1983 video done. It's going to be a daunting task. We'll see. Eventually we're going to start splitting it up into metal, thrash, and classic rock. So these videos are going to get more crazy in the future. So anyhow, that's it for this edition of Hard and Heavy. Nope, not even Hard and Heavy.
This is classic.
That's it for this edition of
classic rock
albums we like in 1982. So that's it. God bless and stay strong.
Easy. Was that the only other one?